Irakli, you're breaking my heart. I thought we were supposed to be friends. I thought we had an understanding. Macron, he sponsored you. He put your name forward to become a made man, to join the EU family. You were going to become a capo. You were going to become the EU capo for the Caucasus. And we were going to help us bring in Armenia and Chechnya and Azerbaijan and whatever other countries we can break off of Russia. You were going to come in. And now you're starting to think for yourself? You're starting to say, look, I can't sell out my family. I can't sell out my boys. Well, so you had a choice. And your choice was to be loyal to us. You know what happened to the last man, the last capo who had a crisis of conscience? His name was Robert Fico. And we took out a contract on him. Now, he didn't die, but sometimes it's not about killing them. It's about sending a message. And we sent a message to Robert Fico, and we're going to send a message to you too. Okay, so that's enough of that. So, the EU, we've been seeing this for a while now. They did this to Hungary. They do this all the time, but let's just get into this. So, Georgia has been trying to pass the most totalitarian, fascist, communistic, pro-Russian law ever that would require foreign NGOs to register where they're getting their money from. So, if an NGO is getting, I think it's more than 20% of their funding from a foreign government, they have to register and do that. But this goes against, and keep in mind, this isn't just the United States or EU. This is if Russia is trying to influence the political process, if China, Iran, Turkey, whoever is trying to influence the political process, they would be required to be to go ahead. And so what they're doing is they're saying that this is against the rules-based international order, and this is against EU values. See, one of the core EU values is no transparency. The fact that Georgia would even ask questions as to where all this money was coming from, you should be happy. You should be happy that we're bringing in money into your country. You just have to keep going. It's breaking my heart. Okay. So, the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli, he got a call the other day. And that's why I'm poorly doing the Godfather voice. So let's see what he had to say. What is it that the EU commissioner who admitted that this happened, and we'll go into that in a second, what did he say? The public observes the developments surrounding the law and transparency and sees that a number of high-ranking politicians do not shy away from even open blackmail against the Georgian people and the government that they have elected. I don't think there's any actual... I haven't seen any accusations that there was actual fraud or that Georgian Dream, which is a pro-EU party, by the way. I mean, they're pro-EU, but not pro-EU enough. We've long been accustomed to this kind of insulting blackmail. It has essentially lost its relevance for both the society and the government. You know, it's funny because today's Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said that he's announcing a new visa restriction policy, those responsible for undermining democracy in Georgia by providing transparency, ethics in donations. U.S. Congress is also going to overlook the U.S.-Georgia strategic partnership. There's going to be visa bans, financial sanctions against individuals, maybe even financial restrictions against the country to try to bring it down. We have Freedom House, who is actively calling for them to be overthrown. U.S. and European allies to immediately impose travel restrictions and basically destroy Georgia. So Georgia is afraid that NGOs are going to destroy their country, because they are. And the NGOs immediately call for the destruction of their country. Funny how that works. Anyways, however, even in the background of prolonged blackmail, the threat that was voiced during a telephone conversation with one of the EU commissioners, who admitted to this, by the way, in particular, in a conversation with me, the European commissioner listed a number of measures that Western politicians could take after the veto on transparency law is overcome. And while listing these measures, he said, "You see what happened to Fico, and you should be very careful." When the Prime Minister of Slovakia, who suffered a terrorist attack a few days ago and is still undergoing treatment, is mentioned in the context of the blackmail related to the transparency law, it's extremely disturbing to us. Keep in mind that Fico was trying to pass this same law. Funny how that happens. Apparently the guy who shot him also has said that he did it because he wanted more weapons to go to Ukraine, and he was supporting that. That thing glows like the sun. I would also emphasize that according to preliminary information, the attack on the Prime Minister is traced to the special services of one of these countries, which is particularly closely connected with the Global War Party. For the purpose of prevention, I consider myself obliged to provide information about these threats to Georgian society. The parallel drawn with the attempted assassination of Robert Fico reminds us that in the form of the Global War Party, we are dealing with an extremely dangerous force that will do anything to bring chaos to Georgia. I'm sure that their plans will not be successful this time either, and Georgia will definitely maintain peace and political stability, which is a necessary condition for the country's development. Now, before we go to what the EU commissioner said, let's take a little field trip. Now, a week ago, I know this is RT, but unfortunately, Twitter took this post down. So a person issued a threat against the president of Serbia, Vučić, if that's how you pronounce his name. So Vučić said he was my friend. I'm sad to hear that his assassination attempt was happened. I hope he gets better. You know what people normally say. In response, the person wrote, "That was a rehearsal for your assassination." So it's kind of funny because Serbia recently had that visit from China. It's timing on all this is very interesting. We also in Portugal have an attempted assassination at the head of Chega. That's also interesting. We've had a lot of assassination attempts. So let's see what the cope is from the EU commissioner. So Politico, Oliver Vahely. Now apparently this guy is Hungarian. But anyway, so his statement, okay, I'm just trying to find it. He said his words have been taken out of context, not just taken out of context, but also presented to the public in a way that could give rise to a complete misinterpretation of the original aim of the phone call. So he said he reiterated the EU's calls for the Foreign Agents Bill to be dropped and said he had been trying to warn him not to inflame further the already fragile situation by adopting this law, which could lead to further polarization and to possible uncontrolled situations on the streets of Tbilisi. Now, I know what you're going to say, that we were funding all of these guys who are out and rioting, but we don't have any control over them, and it might get out of hand. So it wasn't a threat. It was a threat. So they in which the 71-year-old suspect confessed to have acted. Of course, he acted alone. The phrase, which references a shadowy global cabal responsible for dragging Ukrainian conflict with Russia, echoes Kremlin propaganda. I mean, we've covered this. I have objective evidence from the New York Times in their article about the shadow war in Ukraine that proves it. So let me see what his actual statement is. Let's see what the cope is. Okay, so this guy is the commissioner for the EU neighborhood enlargement. So it's his job to go out and break people's thumbs until they pay protection money. With reference to the statement made by the Prime Minister of Georgia, I would like to express my very sincere regret that a certain part of my conversation was taken out of context. Note that it isn't, maybe my language was imprecise, maybe I didn't get my point across. No, it's his fault. It's always the other person's fault. It's never that you like misspoke or something like that, or there was a misunderstanding. As a commissioner, I am in regular contact with government officials in my portfolio countries to collect their protection money. Since communication channels always have to be kept open for direct political exchanges. In the current political situation of Georgia, being aware of the very strong pro-EU sentiment of Georgian society, which we've proved on numerous occasions are literally people who are paid by the US and you. You're literally paying people to riot in the streets. During the phone conversation, I felt the need to call the attention of the Prime Minister on the importance not to inflame further the already fragile situation by adopting this law, which could lead to polarization, impossible, uncontrolled situations on the streets of Tbilisi. In this regard, the latest tragic event in Slovakia was made an example as a reference to where such a high level of polarization can lead in a society, even in Europe. Is that different from what that sounds pretty much exactly what the Georgian Prime Minister said. It's basically almost word for word the same. Once again, I regret that one part of my phone conversation was just not fully taken out of context, but was presented into the public in a way that to give a complete rise to complete misinterpretation of the originally intended aim of my phone call. So it was taken out of context of me threatening them to say that you were threatening them. I mean, that is a threat. Like, there's like, if you don't drop this law, some stuff is going to happen to you. It would be a pain. It would sure be a shame if your store got burned down or something like that. I mean, this is a threat. Even the way he worded this is obviously a threat. This is the kind of mafioso behavior that they're adopting. And this like seems to be happening almost on a weekly basis. They're just flat out assassinating people now. Or just like openly just basically telling them to go down. But I think the thing here, and this just shows how arrogant these people are, he doesn't, and these people aren't fucking diplomats. Like, I get that he's maybe not a diplomat. He's the minister of the secretary or whatever of enlargement, so you'd think he would know how to like speak to other human beings, but it's like you don't see how like saying if you don't drop this law, something that could happen to the guy who just got shot for not doing what the EU told him to do could happen to you. How that couldn't be interpreted as a threat. Like, he's not even willing to acknowledge that there was a misinformation. This guy is like a pro-Russia snake, and he was doing it. So that is the EU's mafia behavior. As I've said before, and I'll say many times, regime change is a hell of a drug.